never seen myself as just one thing, and I made sure no one else could either. By staying true to myself, making my own path, rising above expectations, and opening the door for others to be their true selves. The first spirit, made with VSOP Cognac, finished in bourbon casks. Martell Blue Swift. Soar beyond the expected.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome depending on where in the world you are joining us from. I am Illuminati, and this is the Crypto and Cognac Podcast, Season 3 opener. And we are so excited to have you guys back. 3 seasons, we can't believe it ourselves. Or if you choose to count it the other way, our 61st episode, a year and a half at it. We want to thank you guys for all of you who've been with us since day one. And we want to welcome all of you guys who this is your day one. We have an exciting season ahead. A bunch of tremendous conversations starting with the one today. And we have some new things, right? So our new cognac partner, as you guys would have seen from the intro, Martell, the oldest of the great cognac houses, is gonna be journeying with us this season. Smells so good. And we have some exciting new partners to introduce you guys to as we go along the way. Today, we have an amazing conversation with Mr. Ian Allen. He is the founder of Paywise. I'm not going to go too much into Ian. I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself because I'm sure he's going to do so much better than I have done. And we're going to discuss Paywise a bit and all the things happening around Paywise and digital currency in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean as a whole. So Ian, I want to welcome you to the Crypto and Cognac Podcast show. How are you?
Hi, Al. I'm fine, thank you. Doing my best. Thank you very much for the invitation and congratulations on your 3rd season. As an entrepreneur, I look at this as an entrepreneurial effort. I appreciate or I have a sense of what you've been through. So congratulations, man, to making it so far.
Thank you very much. So Ian, like I said, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of history about the man, Ian Allen, your journey to this point, how you got into the digital currency space in the first place, some of the things that, impacted that decision. Tell us a little bit.
Okay, so I think it's very important to always have a context for what you do. And when I look at Paywise, the context of Paywise is really and truly my work experience. I was fortunate enough to have 9 years experience in IT, followed by 13 years experience in finance and also some educational experience there. So all of that was very useful in terms of starting Paywise and navigating the space, okay, for a payment service provider and now an electronic money issuer. Okay, so Paywise started in 2013, and out of the simple desire to provide a payment service for many young entrepreneurs who at that time needed a payment service, but did not have one that was convenient and inexpensive. At that point in time, you had credit cards, online payments now being opened up to the market, but it was still expensive and a bit exclusive. So looking at the market, I decided to start a cash payment service because cash was the predominant means of payment.
Right.
Okay? And even today, it remains predominantly a high percentage of retail transactions. About 70% of retail transactions are done using cash. So the idea was to develop a network of agents whereby persons can easily go to these agents and make a payment to, okay, businesses that needed to receive payments.
Right.
So that's how Paywise was started, okay, out of a need basically to provide the entrepreneurial brothers and sisters, okay, with basically a method by which they could easily receive payments from their customers across the country.
Right. And so I know you guys have had a long journey with the regulator to the point where you guys have been made the first digital money issuer in the country. But at the onset in 2013, was there a regulatory framework that you guys had to work around, and what was that like? Was there regulatory pushback as you started in that particular area as a money transfer system?
Well, when we started back then, the prevailing regulation was that of a payment service provider.
Right.
Okay, and for us, it was a bit opaque because we started without thinking of the need for regulation, but we soon realized after starting that there was this regulatory framework that we needed to adhere to. Okay, and immediately after, upon recognizing that, we applied for a license as a payment service provider.
Right.
Okay, so that was the initial step. Okay, and we got that license in 2019. And in 2019, it was also a very auspicious year for us for several reasons. And one of the reasons being that we decided to upgrade the platform to a mobile-based platform. Okay, and we took the decision to develop the mobile platform and at the same point in time apply for the EMI license.
Right.
Okay, so at this point in time, we sort of had it basically in sync in terms of the development of the application at the same point in time applying for the electronic money issuer license.
Okay, and how has the move to a digital platform, how did you see that grow the scale of what you guys were able to deliver as a service from 2019 onward, and how has that continued to evolve since?
Well, funny enough, I mean, the decision in 2019 was a bit right for the moment because immediately after, once we started development in early 2020, we had COVID hitting. Okay, so at that point in time, we saw the vulnerability of the agent network in a situation of crisis.
Right.
Right. Fortunately for us, we had made that decision to move to a digital platform, and during that period, digital payments and digital activities became more and more predominant. What we saw was basically, whereas before that, prior to that, you had this kind of restriction or preference not to engage digitally by the population in general. What we saw was a relaxing of that willingness to embrace the digital economy and the digital activities. So we knew that at that point in time, well, at least we made the right decision early enough. Journeying on through, coming out of that and obtaining the license, let's say more or less at the end of the whole COVID period, is very timely for us, because at this point in time, we see the market as being more ready, okay, right, to accept and embrace this whole digital experience. Okay, so we think that we are at a very good point in this journey, and hopefully looking forward to take advantage of what is presented to us.
Right, and in your experience, the experience of Paywise, where did you feel like your greatest point of friction was? Was it coming from the retail channel, people just not having a willingness to operate digitally, or was there more friction from the regulatory body as it relates to giving access to or granting the license for operators like yourself?
No, I mean, from a regulatory point of view, we didn't see that as being friction. We just saw that as par for the course, meaning right, that this is a process, okay, and in that whole regulatory exchange was, okay, we provided information, they asked questions, we provide more information. And then that information had to be digested. And sometimes in us preparing the information, we had to be very steadfast and careful in terms of how we prepare the information, put forward the information, make sure that it was robust, make sure that it was complete. Many instances we had to get consultants to do exercises, to do reviews of the system, etc., and to put forward reports. So in itself, it's a timely, for us, it was a timely exercise for us in terms of what we had to do. So in terms of pushback, I would say no. I would just look at this. This was the manner in which it was done, okay? And we fully understand the process. On the customer side, customer side in terms of embracing the technology and embracing digital payments, to me, I don't foresee much in terms of friction there. I see it as an entrepreneur and as a business, understanding the needs of the customer, carefully understanding the needs of the customer, and designing a product that meets those needs.
Right, and you would consider your business to be more a B2B business. So your customers are the entrepreneurs, as you put it, who would be seeking to receive payments from their customers, and not necessarily you guys dealing directly with the customers.
Well, okay, our business model is basically, initially it was what you just described in terms of dealing with businesses, providing that bridge between a customer and the business. But right now with the new license and our mobile wallet, it's going to be more of, well, both in fact, business to business, customer to business, as the case. So it's a broader market that we are now addressing.
Okay, and what exactly has changed now with your business, or the operations of your business, with the new digital money issuer license? Explain to us what that license basically grants Paywise the authority or the autonomy to do.
Well, I mean, one key distinction is that we can now issue electronic accounts, e-money accounts. Okay, so persons can have an account with us, and in that account they can maintain a balance. So that's the major difference there.
So you, as compared to someone having to do a direct transaction and for example, purchase something, your customers can now hold a Paywise account and store funds in that Paywise account for whenever they need to use it. So let's say I want to keep $500 in my Paywise account, and as I come across a business that accepts payments from Paywise, then I could use those funds, just like I would keep $500 in cash on me.
No, that's correct. That's correct. So basically, what the wallet does is it holds value for you, okay, and you can then transfer that value upon purchase, etc.
And being a licensed digital money issuer, does that make it? Is it now mandatory that businesses accept your payments, or do they have to be on the Paywise network to accept your payments? How does that side work?
Well, nothing is mandatory in that respect. We still have to go on there and get the customers and get the users and so on to sign up to our service. Okay, so basically, once they sign up onto our platform, then they have the ability to accept payments using our services.
And how would someone load their Paywise account? Would it be through your existing payment channel,
Correct.
Payment network?
Correct. I mean, through the existing payment network, also they can do a bank transfer to us, so they can use a card in order to put money into the account.
Okay, and some of your existing payment channels, who do you guys use? Like, if I want to prepay and load my Paywise account using cash, how would I do so? And are there limits as to how much I could load my
Right.
wallet with and that kind of thing?
We have an agent network of about at least 120 agents out there right now. So persons can basically go to one of those agents and basically put funds onto the wallet. Okay. So that's the primary means by which that can be done.
Right. And if let's say I wanted to make a purchase using my Paywise account for online purchases, because one of your merchants has an online service, right? Would I be able to load, $20,000 from my bank account onto my Paywise wallet, like do a transfer for $20,000,
No.
and
No,
then
I
make
mean,
a purchase of a bed or a living room set? Can I buy a car with Paywise? What are the limitations?
well, I mean, on our website we have the different tiers. So different tiers have different limits. Okay. So the initial tier we start up like around $5,000 for an individual, and we go higher. Similarly for businesses, we start up at a lower tier and then we go higher, right? The idea of, let's say, putting $20,000 onto an account is not something that we envision persons as doing, but let's say a business, okay, receiving transactions for that amount, payments for that amount, let's say over a period, then that is possible.
Okay.
I mean, we more see that as being realistic than someone actually going and put $20,000 into the account.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm thinking about Paywise as a option for persons who may not have access to a credit card, for example, right? And they want to do some online purchases. Let's say, for example, Quartz Trinidad becomes a Paywise customer, and I'm not sure if you're aware. Like, I only realized it maybe a couple of years ago that there were limits on your debit card in terms of daily use.
Correct.
So I couldn't go to courts and say, buy a living room set that was valued at $20,000 just by swiping my card, even though I may have had those funds on my account, right? I would have had to call the bank, ask the bank to temporarily raise my limit for the day so that I could engage in that type of transaction. But even outside of going and swiping my card, if I have the funds in my account and I want to make that purchase online, we don't have too many platforms that allow you to use your debit card, whether it's Visa or MasterCard debit, to make online payments at those kind of values or any values at that. So I'm just wondering if that was something or if that was a gap in the market that you guys saw and are looking towards filling.
Well, not specifically, because as mentioned before, we have different tiers, and the tiers have their limits in terms of spend per day, spend per month, wallet size. Okay, so we have those kinds of restrictions. Okay, where we see a gap in the market is in terms of, yes, providing access to digital services, digital payments to, let's say, various segments of the population that may not have been privy, okay, to such kind of service. When we look at the market in general, if you look at what they refer to as the bottom of the pyramid, we find that financial services may not be easily accessible to persons, okay, at the base per se. Right. So we see that as the gap in the market, really and truly, providing financial services, or in other words, providing access to financial services via our platform. So these people from the wallet itself can access a myriad of financial services without necessarily leaving their home. There's where we see the gap.
Okay, and give me a couple of examples of those services.
Okay, so for example, if someone wants to pay the insurance, okay, if someone wants to, let's say, get a loan, make a loan payment or something like that. When we look at when we look at the market and we look at cash and how cash is transacted and what cash is used for, there are many potential replacement for that activity, of taking your cash and going to a point and making a payment. Okay.
Right.
If the purpose is simply for making a payment and making a payment only, then there can be alternatives, more cost-effective alternatives, okay, for someone to do so. We're hoping to provide that kind of funnel for them to actually make such payments more cost-effective in terms of time, all right, in terms of cost in order to get from point A to point B, and more so providing value in form of convenience.
Right.
Okay. So we see convenience as being a big factor in terms of people readiness to adopt and to accept digital means of transacting.
Right. And does the Paywise wallet allow for let's say peer-to-peer transactions between customers who may not be commercial customers? So for example, I have a friend who wants to borrow $100. Am I able to send that $100 from my Paywise wallet to their Paywise wallet? Is that one of the functionalities that's currently built into the
Of course, I mean, that is like peer-to-peer transacting. Okay, so one person can send funds to another person. Okay, and the cost is free of charge. We don't charge for any on-platform transaction.
Okay.
So I can send money to you and you can send money to me and it's free of charge.
Right. And the limits would be within the constraints of whatever tier that person
Correct.
is
That's correct.
in the platform. Yeah.
That's correct.
So as a licensed digital money issuer, are there certain KYC considerations that you guys have in place for persons when they're setting up a Paywise wallet? How do you guys meet your obligations to the CBTT and the other regulatory?
Well, KYC and onboarding, AML, all of these things have been a practice of ours since day one, to be honest with you, since we started business in 2013, because that is one thing that we fully appreciated, the need for that regulatory or due diligence, customer due diligence. That's something that we were quite aware of and build that into our system initially. In fact, in 2014, we registered with the Financial Intelligence Unit.
Right.
Okay. And as a part of that, you have to do your compliance program, and in your compliance program, you have to state, okay, what are your due diligence, KYC, blah, 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 AML, all of these things that actually indicate. So we've been doing that from day one. So, and that basically is part of our current system right now. Okay, proper due diligence. So there is the satisfaction of who you're dealing with.
Okay, and you would say those that your AML compliance, KYC, customer due diligence fall in line with what people would be used to from the banking industry,
Definitely. No different.
Nothing new and out of the way or exorbitant. No need to give blood and.
The only difference with us is that we respond faster. So we respond in a faster fashion, basically.
Right. So I mean, I'm sure you would have anticipated me going there, because after all, the name of the podcast is the Crypto and Cognac podcast. Is there any plans, or do you guys have the back end support for eventually moving towards a blockchain-based structure or a crypto-based structure that allows for all these peer-to-peer activities and money transfer to take place on a, whether it be a closed blockchain or an open source platform, decentralized platform? Is that something that you guys have contemplated?
Well, I want to say that there are a lot of payment technologies out there and a lot of emerging payment technologies. And some of these payment technologies are quite exciting, like, for example, CBDCs, and as you mentioned, crypto. I mean, our policy is basically to look at each and to consider them on their own merits, and to basically examine them in the context of the regulatory framework that is currently present. Okay, so yeah, we'll be looking at all of these. Wherever there's an opportunity, we shall be looking to adopt them. But of course, I mean, we have to do that mindful of the regulatory framework in which we operate.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned CBDCs, and my question always is to organizations like yourself. Do you see CBDCs and the potential for government issued wallets as eaten into your business?
Well, it depends on the strategy that the government has taken. Well, the central bank has taken. And we can look within the Caribbean, and we can see in some instances where the strategy may not have been that successful.
Right.
Okay? Because, I mean, you have different aspects of our CBDC. You have the wholesale the CBDC, and you have the retail CBDC. Okay?
Right.
So I think the central banks, and they will have to think carefully in terms of which particular option that they choose to go forward with. And depending on that, work with fintechs in order for that particular project to be successful.
Yeah, because we've seen a few different models attempted in the Caribbean, whether it be the Sand Dollar with the Bahamas. We've seen Dcash with the ECCB, and we've seen something a little bit more retail with Jamdex out of Jamaica. I know Trinidad and Tobago seems to have stalled a bit on their pilot of their CBDC. Have you guys been in discussions with the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Digital Transformation, or any of these other ministries in terms of maybe partnering in to help them execute their mandates using your technology?
We have had some preliminary discussions with some entities, and we are hoping that these things can go forward and develop into something material.
Right. And in terms of partnerships with other, whether they be for-profit or non-profit organization, for example, the FinTech Association of Trinidad and Tobago, how have you guys been approached by these guys? Are you guys members of that association? Do you see value in organizations like that in terms of moving this digitization forward for Trinidad and Tobago?
No, I mean, most certainly, definitely. I mean, I would say that the FinTech Association of Trinidad and Tobago has been tremendous work. I mean, I know they recently had some new appointments, and some of the people I'm quite, I know, I've met, and I think that they are quite capable. And so I'm really and truly looking forward to more exciting things coming from them. Okay, I think that association is one of the is a very important association. To bring the fintech entities together and be a voice for them. Okay, so yeah, I mean, fintech together with other organizations like the or government agencies like the TTIFC, I think they're doing tremendous work, to manifest what persons have been. The potential that people see in the space, and I think their involvement is critical.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited to see the work that the FinTech Association is doing, and in terms of bringing all these various stakeholders together. I truly believe that moving this industry forward is going to take more than one person or one organization working independently of everyone else. How have you guys viewed other potential payment service providers, other potential digital money issuers? Is that something that you guys see as being important for the growth of the industry, having multiple players?
Well, competition is inevitable, and competition leads to more innovation within the industry. Okay, so we know competition is coming, so that basically allows us to be more circumspect and have a different approach, look at things more differently, okay, more competitively we look at things. So everything that we do, every decision we make is from, okay, how does this position us to be more competitive? Okay?
Right. And what would you say if you had to like look at one thing that would really catapult the work that you guys are doing to the next level right now, based on, I mean, you guys have had a lot of, in my perspective, a lot of good wins during the course of this year, kind of culminating with the e-money issuer license. What would you say would take you guys to the next step? Is it capital? Is it capacity with staffing? Is it what would you say would take you guys over the top? Is it educational partnership, helping to get more people to see the value of digital payments and a digital infrastructure framework? What would you say is the key thing right now, or one of the key things?
I think the most important thing would be a sound strategic plan, okay? And one that basically encompasses all of the things that you've said, because all of these things are elements, critical elements, okay, within that strategic framework, okay? You talk about partnerships, okay? You talk about capital, okay? There's also market, okay? So all of these things are very important. So to say one thing is critical, one thing is just like a vehicle, a mechanism by which you can execute, okay, in other areas. So if you have partnerships, it makes you better execute in a particular way. If you have funding, it makes you execute in a particular way, all right? So all of these things together, okay, has to be a part of the strategic intent, okay? And as a result of that, bringing all of these things together and executing. Okay, I think executing your strategic plan is the most important thing.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, execution. I mean, and I would say, I mean, as someone who is very active in the crypto and blockchain space, I think that's one of the areas where the space falls down a lot in terms of execution. Very good at innovating, ideation, identifying gaps, identifying opportunities. But when it comes to execution, I think that is one of the key areas that we tend to slip at times. So you guys, as you move forward, where can someone who is interested be able to access the app? How would somebody get started with Paywise if they saw this podcast, they want to go right away and get involved? How would they do so?
Well, they can go to our site. We have two sites up at this point in time. We have the traditional old site, paywise.co, but we also have a new site, and this new site is for the app, pwapp.co. Okay, and on that, once you go onto that site, that's our new fancy dangle site. It has the access to the to download the app from the Google Play Store. iOS version of the app is coming out very soon. We are completing the testing of that right now, so the iOS version is coming out. Right, and on that website, persons can go and we have videos that they can look at to see how to use the app. We have FAQs. We have a lot of information regarding the app.
And as you guys start growing, I know you talked about where we exist in a very heavily cash dominant system. Are you guys going to be doing maybe a road caravan to kind of educate people on the opportunities for moving away from cash? I mean, I would love to be able to go to the market on Sunday and be able to pay with Paywise as compared to having to remember to withdraw cash to the market.
Now, yes, I mean, that is the end goal, but you have to be very cognizant of the degree of achievement, okay? People are married to cash, okay? People are married to cash. I mean, I come from the banking sector, and I remember back in the day when there were two books in the lives of people. There was the Bible and there was the passbook. Bible number one, passbook number two. Many people out there, many young people out there may not know what a passbook is, but trust me, if you would ask your parents and the grandparents and me, the Bible came first. When you saw the Bible, the passbook was right next to that. Okay, and that bank passbook basically kept all the transactions and balances of the money you had in the bank. And the bank was trying furiously, okay, to get persons to move from this book to statements.
Right.
Basically, took a generation for that to happen.
Yeah. You know what? Sorry, go ahead.
Right. So if we look at cash and we look at people's affinity to cash, I mean, the desire to hold cash, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, in my belief. Okay, but I think it will eventually come. But maybe a generation, maybe. Well, or maybe there may be some other significant event that may cause that sudden change in attitude and willingness to embrace cash. But that being said, I mean, there are sectors of the market that are willing to embrace, okay, the new digital platform, the new norm, as they say. They're willing to embrace it. And those are, let's say, our first customers.
Right.
Okay, those are like the first customers. And eventually you would find that over time, that grouping will expand, get larger and larger. And instead of more transactions being done with cash, you would have lesser percentage of transactions being done in cash. And eventually we'll get it to the point where there's a predominant digital payments activity. Okay, cash may not go away 100%.
Right.
It may not, because people use cash for different reasons. And we may not, the fintechs and they may not basically address all of those reasons when they use cash. The cash may not always work. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't see this as whitewashing and eventually all of a sudden cash goes away. No, I mean, you have to understand the psychology of people and their behavior and where cash is concerned, and understanding that, I think, will best inform the approach that fintechs take, okay, in order to move more and more persons from cash to a digital world.
Yeah, I mean, I think trust has a huge part to play in that equation, and the physical nature of cash seems to satisfy that concern around trust, especially for people who have come from that older generation. I myself spent, just under 20 years in the financial services industry, starting with the banking industry as a teller, and remembering, as you spoke, the days when people would come in to have their passbook updated, and interestingly enough, I recently presented at the credit union leadership conference here, and one credit union executive was speaking on a past customer who would come into the credit union every month, withdraw all of their money, count it, and then redeposit it. simply just as a check to make sure that all their money was still, held in a trustworthy manner with the credit union. So it feels to us who are, I guess, in the fintech space, who are kind of engaged with these new technologies, it feels far off, but this is something that is not even a generation ago yet. So I think you're absolutely spot on in terms of how that process needs to go, and the fact that we may never wake up to a cashless society, particularly in the Caribbean.
Correct, and I think that example you gave there, can provide a lesson for us, and that is people may desire to take their cash, convert it into digital, okay, or digitize their cash, move their cash around, move that digital cash around, and if need be, take it back out. Okay, so that example you gave there with the guy putting his money to the credit union, to me, kind of like reads like that. Yes, I'm happy to put it here, but then I must know I have access to it. I can pull it back out if I want. Okay. And that's how we see the whole digital space, giving people that option to put it in, okay, and then if they want, take it back out. Right? So they get the cash back into their hand after putting it and seeing how it operates within the digital space. We think that they will have a level of comfort in terms of and comfort and trust in the system that they can put it in and then take it out, and knowing that they can do so at their will, at their fancy, okay, and still get it in your hand. You mentioned another point, trust, and one thing that PYs realized early in the game is that when you're dealing with people money, you're in the business of trust. Okay, that's essentially what you are in the business of trust. Okay, so that's very important. I mean, maintaining people trust and giving them the means by which they can gauge, okay, how to interact with you, and you say what you do, or you say what you intend to do. You state what your actions are, what you plan to do, and you basically follow through with people. Okay, yeah.
So what you're saying is that at any point, someone who holds funds in a Paywise wallet can redeem those funds for cash. So people should not in any way feel uncomfortable about.
No. I mean, for example, you can move it off the platform. You can transfer to your bank account.
Yeah. And for persons who may have entered the platform through one of your service providers via cash, how can they move it off via those same platforms?
Well, we plan to. I mean, this is the plan, yes, to give them that option to take that cash out via through our agent network.
Right, because I mean, we understand that as within the Caribbean, within Trinidad and Tobago, we still have a significant unbanked population. We still have a significant underbanked population, and we want to create an environment where those people have access to online and digital transactions, and they may be unbanked by choice because they have fears around the banks. They may have resistance to the fee structures around the banking sector, as the case may be. And they may choose to only have a credit union account, or they may choose in some cases to keep their money under their mattress. I mean, that's still not too far off. I mean, I think
no.
From the CBTT, and they were saying that they were so surprised that the amount of people who came to change when we had the changeover from the old currency to the new currency.
Yes,
how many people came to the central bank to have their money changed because they didn't have any bank accounts, as the case may be, because they had their money saved under their mattress in their house. Some people went so far as to go to PriceSmart and buy themselves a safe because they were adamant that they must keep their eyes on their money at all times. So we're not far away from that environment.
No, we're not far off. I mean, and when you look at the statistics, if I remember correctly, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think maybe about $500 to $700 million stays out of the banking system.
Yeah.
Okay, don't quote me on that. I think that was a figure I came across on that. But so you have a significant amount of cash that basically stays outside of the banking system.
Yeah. I mean, and we see it. We have entire industries that are heavily cash based. There are very few doubles vendors who accept any form of digital payment. Very few markets that accept any form of digital payments. There are a lot of farmers who only accept cash payments, whether they're dealing with you and I, or they're dealing with a massive chain of supermarkets. They want to be paid in cash. So like you said, we still exist very much in a high cash environment. I think it takes all of us working together to kind of get people more comfortable with the digital space, and I guess COVID would have helped to kind of start that conversation moving further and further along. Would you say that COVID had a big part to play in maybe speeding up you guys getting your digital, your e-money issuer
No, I
license?
can't say that. I cannot say that.
Or it was purely based on you guys following the application process and, being diligent with the information you shared?
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
we have a segment called the Crypto Caribbean TV Tips, and I'm gonna give you the opportunity to share a tip with either the retail environment who is interested in maybe moving away from cash, or maybe somebody who is maybe contemplating, maybe one of your competitors who is wary of engaging the regulators about getting into the space. What kind of advice you have for them, right? So Ian, give us your cryptocurrency tip for anybody who you feel like needs some advice right now.
I think, in terms of payment space here, you always have to be cognizant of what your customer wants. Okay, and all your customers are not homogeneous, meaning that they don't have the same profile. Okay, some of them may have the means by which card payments and digital payments is more convenient and easy for them. Some of them handle or manage their affairs by cash. For example, you have people who will go to the bank, okay, and like the example you give, take out all the cash at the end of the month, okay, but not deposit it back into the bank, but have that cash in their hand to manage their affairs on a monthly basis. So, for example, like you and I mean, we may have a credit card, we may have a savings, we have, let's say, a relative we can call on to borrow some funds from. And these are support systems we have to meet financial contingencies that may occur from time to time. There are people who don't have that benefit.
Right.
Okay, so when they take the cash out, basically that's how they manage for the month, with the cash in their hand.
Yeah.
All right. So you have to be aware of the market that you're serving and what their needs are and their preferred mode of payment. And sometimes, for example, even I would consider myself a digital person. There are times I prefer to pay with cash than with my card.
Yeah.
I myself. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Sometimes, yeah, correct.
Thank you very much for that. So, Ian, as we come down towards the tail end of this conversation, is there anything that you feel necessary to share? Is there anybody you want to shout out, anybody on your team or your entire Paywise team? One question I had before you go into that is Paywise satisfied with serving Trinidad and Tobago, or do you guys have more regional ambitions?
We have regional ambitions. I mean, our ambition really and truly is to support the people of the Caribbean.
Right.
Okay. I, in my previous jobs, used to travel extensively throughout the Caribbean, and always had an affinity, a closeness to the Caribbean people, being amongst them. Okay. I mean, so I appreciate and I see that linkage between people of the Caribbean. And for example, when a lot of Trinidadians have relatives in Grenada, okay, and other parts of the Caribbean. So we are connected. So we are connected in spirit. So I think we should also be connected digitally.
Right.
Okay. Right. So I mean, I'm hoping that, well, Paywise definitely plans to be a part of that mosaic, that structure that eventually comes to the fore to support, okay, right, Caribbean people in terms of their financial endeavors.
Yeah. So remittances, cross-border payments is definitely something you guys have in.
Right. So all of those things, I mean, we are looking, because those are the things that basically Caribbean people use, okay, to communicate or to transact, okay, amongst themselves. That's how they can transfer value.
Yeah.
Okay. And transferring value we see as a kind of form of communication. So definitely we want to be a part of that and plans to be a part of that too.
Yeah, I mean, I so I do a lot of research into, the financial space, money, and one idea that I came across is that money is a form of communication, and it might be one of the oldest forms of communication that we have as
Yeah.
human beings. It's the way that we communicate value. So
Correct.
when we think about cross-border payment, it's just a means of communicating value across territories. So I think, as you put it very, very eloquently, that is something that we need to see happen a lot easier between our Caribbean brothers and sisters and ourselves. So go ahead, shout out your team, say hi to anybody you wanna as we wrap the conversation.
Well, I would like to say shout out to my team of 5. I mean, great guys that I'm working with. I really appreciate what they're doing and helping to move PayWise forward. I would also like to thank, the tremendous support that we have received since the announcement.
Right.
Okay. A lot of persons have reached out to us. Okay, and it's really and truly, we really and truly appreciate that, because it definitely shows that what we have been doing, believing in your vision, being persistent, okay, pays off in the end.
Yeah, definitely. And Ian, I'm gonna ask one final question, right? Now, fortunately or unfortunately, you share a name with a particular character. Because in some of my groups, when I shared the announcement about Paywise, people were like, "What? Wait, you don't run a TV?" I'm like, different guy. How does that feel when people mistake you for him and him for you?
Well, to be honest with you, I've gotten used to it. And sometimes if I don't get a reaction, I'm surprised. Right? So much so when I introduce myself, I wait for the reaction. So sometimes I said, okay, what's your name, Ian? And there would be a pause, and the person will, okay, well, what's your full name? Ian Alain. And then they rock back and they started up. Oh, so that's why you don't want to tell me your full name. Right?
Listen, I'm very, very I would say I understand your pain and your humor around it, because my parents, in their infinite wisdom or laziness, decided to call me all right in a community where everybody is asked if you're all right, right? So I've had to deal with that word association with my name as well. So definitely.
But I must say sometimes the name can be icebreaker.
Yeah, for sure. I remember growing up and thinking, as soon as I turn 18, I'm gonna change my name. But then by the time I was 18, all right was just who I was. So
correct.
I was very, very much tied to it. But Ian, I want to thank you for coming on, for chatting with me, for chatting with us and the community at Crypto Caribbean, and sharing a little bit more about Paywise. We want to wish you guys all the success. We definitely think that what you guys are bringing to the table has tremendous value. We definitely want to see it expanded across the region. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch to see how we can do more to make sure that the gospel that you are sharing makes it across Trinidad and Tobago and the region as a whole.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity. Very much appreciated. And willing to, chat again sometime.
Thank you very much for your time, Ian. Have a blessed one. Guys, episode 1, season 3 of the Crypto and Cognac podcast show. Thank you very much for being with me. I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to hearing your comments about this and every conversation we're going to have. And as I always say, adoption is inevitable. Illuminati out. Bless.